Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and in this one we're going to talk about the fact that they are back in the office! Whee! Anyways, they are back in the office, and a couple things to mention is that they have a few things to cover. Most notably has been a lot of accounts being hacked, and that's obviously terrible. However, according to New Zealand law, if there was a data breach from Grinding Gear Games side of things, they would have been legally forced to publicly announce this, which we have not seen. However, even if the breach is not on their end directly, it obviously and evidently could have been prevented with two-step verifications and whatnot. So better account security. Communities have been pretty much in an uproar state about this. Hopefully, they're going to be amending this. However, they will obviously, because of the grand scale and the widespread impact this situation has had, that they're going to have to make some sort of statement. So it's going to be very interesting to see when they do this. I'm also currently in conversations with Jonathan Rogers to set up yet another Tavern Talk podcast with my lovely co-host, Mr. Darth Microtransaction. And we'll see when we're going to announce that. We're still in the discussion state of this. We were supposed to have one before Christmas, but since there was a lot of things happening, we decided to take a small break and not stress them too much and postpone it till January. So that's where we hopefully can expect to see a podcast with Jonathan Rogers, and maybe Mark will join us as well. And we have a lot of questions for them. However, I made a little list here to talk about the future of Path of Exile 2, and I want to tackle a couple of these things. Most of them will basically be me saying, we don't know. But let's talk about it either way. So obviously, we have one more ascendancy class for each of the classes that we have available right now. There are 6 classes in the game, and we are supposed to be giving one more ascendancy of all of these 6 classes. When we get this, don't know. We are also lacking 6 new classes, and those 6 new classes are supposed to have 3 new ascendancy classes each. And that also includes new skills, as well as new weapon types, and all spirit gems and support gems that are lacking as well, for that matter, which we, yet again, don't know when that's going to happen. Then we have this part, which is kind of why I want to make this video. So the bigger balance passes, we just talked about this on stream here. This is being recorded during a live stream. So hi Twitch chat, hi YouTube chat. Say hi to the YouTube boys that are watching this later. What's going to happen is that in PoE 1, they always talk about the vision of the game. They have an idea of a painting that they want to have, and then they put Bob Ross to action, basically. And they start with the bigger balance changes and introductions and the balances and buffs and nerfs to the game by simply referring them to brush strokes, if you will, on this little canvas. And for each big change that they do, it gets us an idea of what the actual finished product will be. Now, this is not going to be one of those, talent competition you'll see on TV where they're painting something that looks like a fucking turd on the screen, but then, oh, wow, they turned the painting around and upside down, and oh my God, it's not a turd, it's just a dog. That's not what's happening here. Instead, what we're going to see is all of these balance changes that we see are going to give us an idea of basically the goal that GGG has with the vision and the direction they want to take with the actual game. Is right now we are essentially playing on a very nice bedazzled frame. We have the frame of the game, and there's a lot of issues in the game. I mean, just minion-related stuff, body blocking, like a melee splash for them, minions dying when you outrun them. I mean, the list goes on. Then obviously you have the whole, like I talked about before, in the name of Adam Jackson lead design for classes in Diablo 4, for example, we're going to use the hand gestures. This is where they want to have builds in terms of efficiency in this little scale from top to bottom, lower and down here, high end up here. And what they want to do is bring builds that are builds or skills that is below this, bring them up to this, and builds that are above them, bring them down. That's something we see in most game companies. GGG does not do this. First off, they don't use hand gestures, they use actual numbers. So what then happens is that they are okay with having builds above this bar, that's up here. And that's fine. And then what they do is they introduce meta shakeups, which is usually coming in the form of every league launch every 3rd or 4th month. They would then make some changes and bring those high-end performers down and leave room for other builds to become the outliers that are then performing significantly better than other builds. And that's kind of how they create this meta shakeup, which is also one of the many reasons that makes Path of Exile a game that you can play consistently for years upon years upon years. However, we're in early access. We're not looking at leagues. We're not looking at that at all. We don't really care about it for the most part. What we care about is finding a good, balanced ground foundation of the game and also getting the lacking spirit gems, support gems, and active skill gems. But there's a lot of issues in the game with the current state. Some builds are vastly superior than others, and some minor issues in terms of performance of certain archetypes, mainly from my perspective. I've been playing a lot of minions lately, of course. So most of my complaints is about that. And then obviously we're lacking things there, like Spectre Gems, for example. It's going to be very, very interesting. So when they do their first big balance pass is where we're going to be given the very first initial look at how is this painting going to look when they're done with their vision. And so we're going to see the first couple of brush strokes soon, I hope, or sooner rather than later, I hope. And that's going to tell us where they want to bring the game. Are they going to slaughter everything down to the point where it's super slow clear speed? Or are they going to be okay with the type of clearing that builds like Monk's Ice Strike is having, or Spark, for example, or the Dummy Mommy Spark for builds like that, or the way we're handling bosses right now? Or, for example, what are the most insane bossing approach we do with minions? For those of you who don't have the issue that I have with crashing instances when we weapon swap, we can actually weapon swap our shield away for a trench timber, and then have a weapon swap set for a sigil of power staff. So pop the sigil, weapon swap back, that literally no defenses, but the boss will die in literally 2 seconds. I'm not sure if that is something that they are going to want to have be the playstyle in the game. So we'll see these things once we get the first bigger balance changes, which I hope we're going to see very soon. Moving on, to avoid yapping in this video too much. Obviously, like I mentioned before, lacking skill of some of the current classes and or support gems, and Spectre gems win, because I'm very biased to that. As you can see here, uncut spirit gems. On the first level, we're lacking 3 of them. On the second, we're lacking yet another 3. And on the last one, we're lacking yet another 3. And it's the same thing that comes down to skill gems. In the occult, we don't lack anything. Elemental, same thing. However, Maces has 4 skills that is not introduced to the game yet. And the same thing with crossbows, has 2 skills, bow has 3, and quarterstaff has 2 that are not in the game yet. And obviously there's no spears, there's no daggers, there's no sword, there's no axe, there's no primal, there's no flail. So there's a lot of those. And then same thing with support gems, 3 lacking on the first one. Yes, 3 lacking on level 2, and another 3 lacking on number 3 that we still haven't seen yet. So that's also something that we don't know when or how or where they're going to introduce these. The other part of things that we don't know yet is the 3 campaign acts. And that's also going to likely introduce the 3rd ascendancy, because right now we have Trial of Sekima and the Ultimatum, Corruption, or Chaos area. They've said several times there's going to be 3 different ways to ascend your class or your character, and it's very likely that this will be introduced in the later act. 5 or 6 is what we're expecting. And the other topic we have is MTX imports, being things like stash tabs and microtransactions in general, which is an ongoing activity that they're trying to do. Obviously not high prioritized as the other things right now. But I wanted to say this after going through this little short list to avoid being nitpicking on specific things. What I will say is this. I believe that GGG are not going to give us, you know, this week you're going to get that class, that week you're going to get this class, or that week you get the Act 5 or whatever, right, or Act 4. I think that what they're going to be doing, which is the smart business move in terms of ROI for the marketing value, is instead to have one big balance pass or big content patch where they introduce a bunch of content in one go to attract new players in, as well as getting a lot of returning players that have already stopped playing for now, waiting for more content to bring those players in, instead of having, you know, small bits and pieces introduced along the way. So what I'd expect them to see is some sort of bigger patch where they say, hey, we're going to give you the remaining acts, because it would be kind of weird if we get Act 4 and then we have to do what, Act 1 and 2 Cruel, and then a month later they're going to give us Act 5, and now we only do Cruel version of Act 1, and they also have to rebalance the monster levels to fit that, which would be kind of awkward. So I actually expect them to say, hey, we're going to give you the remaining campaign. Now here's the 3 remaining acts, and just give us all of that in one go, because it will have a much grander or bigger scale impact in the gaming world. And that will obviously spark up interest and attractiveness to try the game out if you haven't already, and or returning players will be more interested in coming back. And in such an introduction or content introduction, I think that would be a smart position to put, hey, we're going to do this, but you're also going to have access to, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 new classes. And we're going to give you these ascendancies and these skills, and just make this like a humongous big patch. And I think that that's what they are going to be doing, because it would be the smart decision from my perspective. Now, if you don't agree with this, do leave a comment down below what you think of it. But I wanted to talk about it and mostly put an emphasis on this part here, because a lot of people are very hung up and talking about on balance things specifically to certain skills or minions, for example, or certain builds that are outperforming and want them to be balanced and brought down, and talk about balances that is very specific. Where I think it's more important that we get those things sorted as well, obviously. But the important part here is to see the grand scale of things, where they're actually going to be painting, or how they're going to paint this frame, or the canvas in the frame rather, and to see how the actual game is going to be in its finished product. Now, again, I don't want to yap too much, but that's my take on the current state of the game and what we're going to be expecting to see in the future from my perspective. Obviously, this is all speculation, but to avoid yapping too much, I'm going to ask you to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and leave a comment down below what your take is. If you agree with me or disagree, I'll read through them later, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So till then, stay safe and keep rocking.